Yo personalmente soy un gran aficionado a Pro Football Focus, pff.com, lo pueden hallar. Es un grupo, una página web que evalúa el rendimiento de jugadores a nivel profesional en la NFL y también en la NCAA. Nos acompaña Gordon McGuinness, escocés, que estuvo al principio con Niels Hornsby, que fue fundador de esta empresa, y todavía está con ella como director global de contenidos. Now, I'm not going to test you on your Spanish here, but I do want to ask you, for those of us who are not too familiar with your methodology, you have 16 games on week one. How do you go about evaluating players, roughly? Just overall, how do you do that? I don't want any secrets to be revealed.
Yeah, so we've got like a whole bunch of people who collect data, grade players on games, but effectively on every single play, we're assigning a grade to each player that'll be between -2 and +2 in 0.5 increments. That happens on every play. By the time that gets to the end of the game, it gets fed into the computer system. That there's a normalization process that works against what the average expectation would be. That all then gets put in, and that's where the number between 0 and 100 is spit out from.
The question for something like that is to try to keep consistency between the teams of evaluators, that maybe a group watching that game, a group watching that game, that they tend to be consistent. I've seen the NFL do that with officiating. That has to be very difficult, and I can tell you officiating takes 2 days, Wednesdays and Thursdays, to review not only every call, but every play that maybe should have been called or not. How's that process of keeping everybody even and seeing the same thing?
Yeah, so there's kind of like different levels. So there's people who collect data but don't grade. Then there's maybe 5% of our data collectors who grade. And then there's an even smaller percent who are like senior graders or reviewers. And they like specialize in a specific area. So we'll have like a small group of people who are our pass rush and pass protection specialists. So after the games have been graded, they're the guys who go in and they watch all the passing plays again, and they'll look at the pass rush and they'll check those grades there. Similar for quarterbacks, receivers, and coverage. Similar for the running game. So there's kind of like specialists for each thing, and there's just like a kind of consistent training process as well to like bring new people on and also keep the people we have just up to speed with everything.
This is a very rigorous process, as you can hear, but it also has drawn the interest of the NFL itself. You have clients in the NFL. Tell us a little bit about how you feel like you've been validated by the approach and the actual clientele of some important people in the league.
Yeah. So we supply data to every team in the NFL now. They use us both for the data that we collect and the grades, but also like software that we provide that allows them to break down games quicker and look at things in certain situations. And we've got constant communication with those teams on improvements they want to see, and them giving us feedback on things we do well, and that kind of helps that validation.
Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo are usually the faces of your effort on podcasts. You can find that on the YouTube channel PFF. But give us an example, again, without releasing company secrets. Give us an example of things you've picked up that you talk about publicly about what's going on in the NFL that people maybe didn't know last year, that perhaps are some insights from your work day to day that emerges and comes out through a PFF piece of content.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting so I don't grade anymore, but when I used to grade, what I used to find really fascinating was like you learn and understand about trends in the league. So this year, things like the use of cover 2 and how it's been harder for teams to throw the ball downfield and stuff like that. That's something that if I was still a grader, you would notice as you're going through. So being able to collect the data on every play, that then allows us to talk about that in content, and it allows Sam and Steve to talk about it on the podcast. And similar to the way the NFL teams can look at stuff and break it all down, they can go in and they can do it before they prep for their podcast. And if they want to talk about a specific coverage, they can go and look at all those plays and all those things.
They cover, of course, the NCAA. They have fantasy. They have draft. It's not just the NFL specifically, although that's the bulk of what you do. But finally, if I'm an NFL fan and I'm a subscriber and I want to look at the grade for the game that start at 1 o'clock Eastern in the U.S. and finish at 4 o'clock, how soon after are they typically published?
I think it's around about like 7 to 9 a.m. the next morning. In fact, I think it might be a little bit later in the morning, but the day after the games is when they all go live, and that's after they've been reviewed by the senior reviewers.
They've been around since 2011. certainly?
Yeah, I think, around about 2010, 2011, I think.
I think the effort started earlier in the UK and Scotland, but certainly 2011 is the sort of the official birth date of the group, PFF. I'm a subscriber. Our producer behind the camera is a subscriber. We hope you become a subscriber too. There's a lot of great information, and increasingly players and league officials and coaches are turning to PFF to get a feel for their own team and the opponents. Thank you very much, Gordon.
Thank you.